Almost set my hair on fire. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Dead Money. This episode of Dead Money is brought to you by stealing. If you steal from people, it's cheaper. Also, like and subscribe to the show. So, obviously, I'm a little late to the party on addressing this story. And my excuse is I had too much shit going on when the story broke. And I was out of town for that fucking wedding, so only now am I here to discuss this matter. But this gambling story, I think, is one that's going to feel new for a minute. Meaning lots of minutes. Because this is a pretty fucking big thing that just happened, and I don't know how the hell anyone can sit there and with a straight face act surprised that it did. Not that anybody is, but for anybody who is. Sports betting was legalized, people. I mean, what did we think was going to happen? You know, it wasn't even that long ago that whenever I watched a baseball game, or any game, actually, that it was like total and utter blasphemy to even think of saying anything that could ever hint towards being on the subject of sports betting, whether it related to that game or any game. No one would ever dare talk about it. That's how outlawed it was. But how quickly things have changed, where suddenly it went from being the ultimate thing you can never talk about to now being shoved down your throats relentlessly start to finish. Showing you the opening odds, the end-game odds, this odds on this, odds on that. Oh my God. I mean, it's like, of course players and referees and umpires and all these other fucking people are going to bet either against themselves or on this or on that, or any combination of things to manipulate the action so they can make themselves a little more money. They're human just like everybody else who can get addicted to this drug, and that's what it is. It's a disease, and it's really sad. So for the people that must be wondering why Chauncey Billups, who made over $107 million in his NBA career, just as his salary for being a player, now needs to cheat people in a high-stakes poker game that he's running using a scam which required such a highly elaborate and sophisticated network of people and tricks and technology to pull it off, it's because he and anyone involved in this or something like it is sick. They are ill. They have a problem. They need to be treated. Because the money did not give them any real satisfaction. I guarantee you that. It's the thirst and quest for domination over people and being in charge of things and just getting over on people. Making targets out of them. That's where the high is at. The more money they pull in from it, the more they fucked you for, so the higher the high is. But what goes up must come down. And that's why they have to keep doing this. They're just maintaining quota like any other drug addict. But that was the poker game. Sports is just, it's all a big joke now. It's been a joke. We might as well watch the WWE every night, because when it's sports, now we truly have no idea what the fuck we're even watching anymore. It's probably been like that for so long that it's just, but regardless of length of time, we have no idea what's real and what isn't. Who's on the take and who isn't. We don't know. It's all in question now, and maybe that's what the entertainment should be about, is trying to figure out what the fix is going to be. But it's crazy to try and absorb, because I've loved watching sports forever. I'm one of the most savage bloodhound baseball fans on the planet. That's something I used to be proud of, although I haven't been for a while. Although not even because of all the bullshit that's going on now with gambling. Wanting to be off this, that just started with just realizing the fact that the emotional EV in being a sports fan is so obscenely low that you need professional help if you're that big of a sports fan. Because it's just almost like an act in self-loathing to dedicate this much time and interest to caring about the fate of a sports team that you know you have no control over and probably isn't even going to satisfy you that much should they win. Last time the Mets won a championship, I was about 1.5. So I've still never seen it happen. If I ever do, yeah, I'll be ecstatic, but I already know it's not going to be as good as I once imagined. And I'm already past the prime anyway of getting max enjoyment from it. And since people love complaining about how bad they run at X, Y, or Z, well, let me fill you in on a tale of running bad, okay? And see if you have the balls to even try to top this one, okay? I'm born in 1985. From 1996 through 2000, the Yankees, the team and entity and whatever else you want to call them that I hate more than anything in the fucking world, won the World Series 4 out of those 5 years. And from 98 to 2000, they won all 3. And who did they beat in 2000? And beat them on their home field on top of it? The Mets. So ages 11 to 15, I had to grow up with a bunch of arrogant Yankee fans who I'm always playing second fiddle to as the Mets' little brother while they're walking on air every offseason because they won again. And what did the Mets do? Well, I should be thankful that they had some really awesome teams in the late 90s also and into the next century. But in the end, the Mets were sitting around and writing more tales of heartache for dickheads like me. But look, no baseball fan is ever going to care more about their team or be more satisfied from winning than they are during early teenage years and middle teenage years, because what the fuck could possibly be more important? So how much time I've spent watching baseball, yet the Super Bowl is actually my favorite day of the year. Because that's how much I love sports. And the Super Bowl needs to be recognized as an American holiday where there is no work the next day because it's Super Bowl Monday and no one gives a shit anyway. Just give everyone the day off. But even if they ever do, at this point, so what? It's all just a big question mark now. And in a way, it probably always has been, but never more than now. You got referee Tim Donaghy throwing games in the NBA. You got Pat Hoberg doing the same as an umpire for Major League Baseball. Shohei Ohtani is more important to baseball than anyone has ever been since Ken Griffey Jr. And Griffey's value probably would pale in comparison now to what Ohtani means to baseball, because in the space of like a week, all the suspicions of Ohtani gambling were suddenly dropped. It was his interpreter, he stole all the money, and now he's being exiled back to Japan. That doesn't sound the least bit suspicious. After the FBI tells you it spent 2 years putting the bust on Billups and everybody else together. What the fuck did Ohtani really do? What was the truth? They're never going to know. But cheating and scamming and manipulating and bribing and all of this integrity-defeating stuff is everywhere. There is no way I've never played in a public casino poker game where there wasn't anybody at least trying to collude. That doesn't mean they were any good at it, but I'd be crazy, and you probably would too if you play a lot, to assume that every table you sat at was clean. And not to pull this zombie out of the closet, but the Garrett hand a few years ago on Hustler Casino Live with Robbie Jade Lou, when she min-raised the turn and then called a 3-bet jam that was $110,000 and over 2 times the pot with the Jack 4 offsuit, blocking bluffs, losing to bluffs. Yeah, I'm still amazed at how many people didn't think that was a setup. My opinion on that matter has always been with Garrett's for so many reasons. None bigger than the fact that she gave all the money back, all $150,000 she took from him in that hand. I mean, can you imagine yourself winning 25 cents off of somebody at a game of jacks, doing so fairly and squarely, but then giving it back because they angrily thought you cheated them when you knew you didn't? Would you ever do that? Don't tell me she was under a lot of pressure and that's why she returned the money. Bullshit, she was under pressure. If she didn't cheat, then she didn't cheat. What pressure could she ever feel? I mean, yeah, it's a fucked up spot to be put in, but I mean, you're going to be throwing your arms thinking, what the fuck? I didn't fucking do anything. You can't possibly prove I did anything when I didn't do anything. I think she'd be laughing in his face if that hand was legit. So I would bet my life there were multiple people cheating in that hand. Now, it's easy for me to say that, and, you know, people say shit like that all the time just to make a point, but I don't even know. Like, what does a person win if they bet their life and they're correct? Because they already have their life, so what more can you give them? Whatever, I don't know. The point is, if there was something I had to bet my life on whose outcome was deemed uncertain, that would be it. Because there's so much fucking money at stake, and there were like 10 extremely damning bits of activity that all point towards massive shadiness. And you can go into a crowd, spit, and hit someone that's tied up in some dirt somehow. This world is fucking nuts. You know what one of the most fun things to do in the world is? Next time you get some Coinbase text that's a scam, call the number and fuck with them for a little while. Play along like you're actually going to do what they want. Give it a good 30 minutes, if not more. It's really funny when you turn it on them at whatever point you've decided you had enough. Just imagining whatever look on their face when they realized they were having their time wasted the entire time. But anyway, so Chauncey Billups is running a poker game with all these famous people in it, and using the card shufflers, he's scanning your cards, and then they're signaling each other and doing a whole bunch of other things to gain absolute knowledge as to what your cards are, and then play accordingly. It's really some next shit. But God, home games. Home games. Tell me what's out there that couldn't sound sweeter, but then turn out more sour than a private home poker game. I haven't played in a home game for a while. I can't say for certain I've never been cheated in the ones I did play, but I doubt it. Point is, either way, if you want to play in a home game, you need a long checklist that is completely satisfied for you to even consider it. Otherwise, it's just a perfect trap for the young, hot, ambitious pro poker player in his 20s. Whether I was ever targeted or not, someone who looked like me back in the day when I was like 25 is the picture-perfect profile of what home game scammers look for. Young, trusting, ambitious, and energetic players, thrilled to be in a home game and oblivious as to what they might be getting roped into because they can't stop thinking about all the whales they're going to sit with that they so rarely get to see in the casinos, and all the hot girls standing around just to look good. All the food, all the drinks, just the atmosphere and this bougie environment of feeling important. That's what they're selling you. Next thing you know, you're stacked by some cooler, and whether it hits you then or later, it's too late now. They got you. I don't know anybody who played in Billups' game, but I know people who know people, and those people said they knew they were cheated somehow. They just didn't know how it was done, but they could just feel it. Most of the home games I said, and I think were fine. I either knew the people running them or were very close to someone who was, so I don't think there was any cheating going on. I mean, probably just butt-fucking us on the rake. And that's no little thing either. I mean, I hear stories of people telling me they're in home games and everyone is losing. Does that make sense? I mean, what do you think is more likely? That every player in the game who was winning has already quit? Or that they're fucking you on the rake? It's a home game, people. The one place there's at least a possibility I could have been cheated was this home game of Brooklyn Jews. They were the ones running it. Fellow members of the tribe. This one guy used to be a huge action player at the Bellagio. A very dangerous fish, very aggressive. And 25-50 games would run around him. Play with him a few times. One day he's got his buddy behind him, and we start to talking a little bit, and then he tells me about his 5-10 game and to come to it the next time I'm in New York. My first game there was August of 2010. I was 25, and I lost. I didn't lose crazy miserably, but I lost. And I came back in November of 2011, I mean, well over a year later. And I had a huge night, won a lot. Then my third game wasn't for a while. It was almost a year and a half later in May of 2013. And I lost. I was buried huge. I was down like fucking 7,000. In fact, this was the only game I ever had pocket queens and had the board double pair aces and kings, leaving me with queen high, and then the guy shipped it on me on the river. So that's perfect. But I still got raging hot at the end in like the last hour, and I won like 5,000 back. So I still lost, but salvaged quite a bit of the damage. You lose 2K-ish, whatever, in a 5-10 game, okay, like that's going to feel pretty normal. But if you lose 7, that one you feel. But after 3 sessions, I was up a solid chunk of change. But then the next day, the 4th session was the next day after the 3rd session, and now we're playing 25-25. 5K min, no maximum, straddle any amount, any position. And in about 5 hours, I lost over 18,000. And look, it could have just been variance. I mean, a lot of the big pots I lost that day were with hands I didn't necessarily have to lose a ton of money with. I mean, I lost one all-in for a 10K pot with a one-pair hand versus an open-ended straight. They're all in on the flop, and he hit it, so I wasn't like this massive favorite, nor was it a hand that everyone is going to be dying to get all in on the flop with. So it just didn't seem like if this was a scam that this is the way I'd be losing. There was no automatic shuffler, so I don't know. I mean, I'd say it's pretty unlikely they cheated, but it doesn't matter. If you have even the mildest of doubts, you can't go back to test it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it to cheat either. You make so much fucking money running an honest game. Why do you need to put everything on the line by cheating? I mean, poker is an incredible game. There's almost never a need to sensationalize how unbelievable things can be, and so organically. Hyperbole comes naturally because the game gives us birth to this unexpected magic and madness, and nothing feels better than feeling like you're a badass at succeeding in this madness. But only a few people get to enjoy that feeling year in and year out. So, I don't know. I guess in addition to wanting to get over on people, some people may also just get tired of losing and always have to run to catch up and never be able to do it. People love their shortcuts to everything, but there are no shortcuts in poker. Not unless you cheat, there aren't. And even though you know it's all fake and you're not really what you appear to be, the bottom line is the money you're winning is real, and so too are the looks of defeat on the faces you're robbing. They have to go home remembering that you won. And Chauncey Billups is an NBA champ. This guy's a Hall of Famer. He knows what winning feels like. Maybe he couldn't take being a fish at poker, so he did it the old-fashioned way by cheating. But when you're cheated, I can only imagine the first thing you want to think is you weren't cheated. You don't want to believe you were cheated. Who wants to believe they were cheated? You think I want to fucking believe I was cheated? No. I want to believe I lost to variance. I just had a losing day at poker, because that money is recoverable. If it's stolen from me, it's gone forever. If I fall out of my pocket, it's gone forever. It doesn't mean I can't make it back, but I'd rather lose $10,000 at poker than freaking $1,000 out of my pocket. The money I lost at poker, I expect to be able to win back. It's I don't expect to be able to find $1,000 on the ground that someone else lost out of their pocket. So these guys who got scammed, they're not going to want to think that this NBA champ and Hall of Famer who made a lot of money just ripped them off. They're going to want to believe that he got lucky. Sometimes the fish have to win. But I guess if everybody is coming together with the same story that, hey, I lost this way, and then everyone seems to be losing the same way. I mean, I don't know if that's what happened, but it seems possible. It's probably what gets the suspicion going. They're making it too obvious. That seems like the art of cheating, is how well can you do it without anyone getting suspicious. I think the people who get caught doing it are just so fucking greedy, and they usually do get caught because their greediness is what causes them to get out of control with it. They're already out of control. That's why they're trying this, and because out of control feelings led them to doing this, they're just going to continue to be out of control. They're not going to suddenly be calm when they're fucking cheating. I mean, they're going to fuck up. They've been fucking up for years. They fucked up years ago. But I've heard some talk about how Billups was betting 100 big blinds with a gut shot and hitting it and acting like this was crazy. Okay. This is the funny part, because it's good that word's getting around that people cheated, but betting 100 big blinds with a gut shot isn't this crazy thing, okay? So it's just funny hearing it presented like it's this really, really, really insane thing. It's not like he bet $35,000 into $500 with a gut shot that he knew was going to hit. So when he bets 100 big blinds, I'm sure a lot of players didn't think that was suspicious. My guess is everyone thought this was suspicious once the stories started coming together, and then results seemed to have this unique way of unfolding together. And plus just your intuition. Some people can probably just feel like something is off. Something doesn't feel right about the game they're in. It just doesn't feel right because the energy is there. The writing is on the wall. Everyone in there is of the mind that, hey, we're cheating this guy. So that energy is out there to be absorbed and comprehended. A friend told me once it's interesting when pro athletes come in against pro poker players in cash or in tournaments, and you just knock them around because they feel the competitive wind and current pushing against them. So the whole thing is just the biggest revealing of what a mess this has been for God knows how long. You got Emmanuel Clase, the elite closer on the Cleveland Guardians, banned for life from baseball. Guy was betting on himself to throw balls since, God forbid, they could even throw a pitch without giving the entire population something to bet on. Then it leads to this. But just something I want to touch on briefly. I mean, betting on yourself to fail is, of course, a million times easier than to succeed. Class A can throw a ball whenever he wants. He cannot necessarily throw a strike whenever he wants. But I don't think betting on yourself to fail is any greater of a violation of the no gambling rule for athletes, refs, and coaches and everybody than it is to bet on yourself to succeed. I think, in essence, they are the same. A lot of people think Pete Rose should be given a break because every time he bet as a manager, he bet on his team, the Reds, to win. So they think, oh, well, the object is to win, so what's the difference if he bets on them? That was my first thought, too. But then I realized it doesn't matter. Because, well, first of all, if you bet on your own team to win, it's obviously going to affect how you would manage the game than if you hadn't. You're going to do everything you can to win, and there's only so many games during the regular season in baseball that are actually like that. And second of all, when you bet on your team to win, that enables the possibility to now try and bribe someone on the other team to throw the game for a cut of your winnings. So this is why you can't, in any context, allow for any leeway on gambling, allow anything to take place with anyone who's involved with the game. Now look, I understand why betting against yourself and throwing the game yourself sounds even worse than betting on yourself. But the reason I put it all together is because it's all crossing the line. It doesn't matter how far past the line you go. I don't disagree that throwing the game yourself isn't of any, extra heinousness, but it doesn't matter. Once the line is crossed, you're no longer watching what you think you're watching. It's the same idea for a roulette wheel. If the wheel becomes flawed and is now a hairline more likely to land on red than black, it's not a roulette wheel anymore. It just looks like one. But what makes a real roulette wheel real, say that 3 times fast, is the fact that it's flawless. And there's no bias whatsoever as to where that little ball is going to land. So it's just a sickening time to be a sports fan. You can't trust any of this shit any more than you can trust a home game. And when it comes to home games, the rake being too high or them raking more than they're telling you about, which they usually are, and cheating is just part of your home game checklist. The safety of who you're playing with is a huge fucking deal as well. It's easy to get conditioned by the casino into thinking nothing is going to happen to you, nothing can happen to you, but that's not the case in a home game. Thankfully, nothing ever happened to me, but boy, I came way too damn close to getting myself in a lot of danger. When I was 24, I played in this home game in downtown LA. It was a 10-25 game. I probably bought in with 3,000 and had 7 more in reserves if I needed. And they were needed. I was getting my ass kicked. I was down 8,000 at one point when I had everything on the table. But more importantly was the brewing hostility that was growing between me and another player. I was going at it from time to time with this guy in the game who was without question the biggest spot in the game. So if for no other reason, it was stupid of me to be fucking with him just because of that. And every time something would happen, it would bubble a little bit, and then it would simmer down and stop. Then a little while later, it would bubble up again, bubble a little more than it did before, and then simmer down and stop. Then a little while later, it would bubble up again and bubble up even more than it did the second time, then it just goes away. But escalating, literally escalating. It's because I was a real smart ass growing up. And no, I haven't grown out of it or even made an attempt at doing so. I'm from the suburban town of New City, New York. It's not super far from Manhattan, and it's still probably one of the safest towns in all the country. So all my fucking life, I was surrounded by a bunch of pussies. Nobody was tough or ever going to be tough enough to ever actually do anything. Everybody just talked shit. Now the guy I was jarring with, let's call him Zeus. Zeus was, I think he was Korean, and he had sleeve tattoos on his arms. He was taking frequent breaks for 10 or 15 minutes at a time. It was suspected he was doing cocaine. But no matter what he did on those breaks, forget about the breaks. Just hearing the literal surface description of this fellow, forget about being racist or this or that. I mean, does this sound like someone you want to be talking shit to just by looking at him? No. But things were the way they were back then. I was a good player, but a jerk-off who didn't understand he was a hell of a lot closer to crossing the line than he realized. And in fact, when I got down 8,000, it was because Zeus stacked me. I limp-raised pocket jacks, and he called in position. Then I think I either bet the flop or jammed the turn, or maybe I just jammed the flop. I mean, either way, Zeus had pocket kings. And he didn't taunt me. I didn't say anything back. I just took the loss. But as things were escalating with us at other times, the guy who got me into the game came up to me at one point. He was playing on the other table, and he was trying to get me to leave. He was just like quietly saying, like, hey, Danny, like, you want to get going? And it was because of this guy I'm playing with. Just thought he's someone we just shouldn't be in the same place as this man, whoever he is. But I was buried and just, fuck it, I ain't going anywhere. So I just told him, no, I'm okay. And he didn't persist. He just left. And I wasn't even thinking about the fact that I don't have any more friends left in this room. That wasn't even that I was being that provocative with Zeus. It was just stupid that I would be engaging him in this manner at all. But finally, I hit him back in a pot with pocket sixes. I don't remember the action that well. I think maybe I limped in with it in early position and then just called his raise from the small blind. I think that's what happened. And we're just heads up, and then the board ran out with some overcards and a turn card on the flush, and I just called down all three streets, sincerely thinking he was just trying to get me to fold, and he was. He had queen three suited. He had bottom pairs. So hooray, I finally made a good decision in this game. And I wasn't taunting him after that either, but the jarring somehow started with us again, and then it got to a point where he threatened that he would throw me out of the building. And in case I didn't mention it, we weren't playing in a teepee. No, this was a high-rise condominium. And he came around the table at one point, probably just to intimidate, I guess. But someone stood up, someone got between us, sat him down, and we were about to move on again. But that's when I crossed the line with him, and it's almost like I did it on purpose. I said to him, I decided you're not worth it. And then he snapped. He fucking attacked me. He came around and he hit me in my arm. I was so shocked by what happened, I actually didn't even think to defend myself or hit back. And then he quit and left the game, and the whole game broke, just like that. So I finished down at 3,400, but before I left, first I had to hear a few words from the game runner since he was, a little pissed off that his game, which was raking a lot of money, broke hours before it was supposed to. And I'm just sitting at the table, and he's pointing his finger at me and yelling about who the hell do I think I am about coming into his game and disrespecting his players. And then he referenced what Zeus said earlier. He said he's going to throw you out of the building. He's like, I can have that done tonight. Then he points his finger in my face and he's screaming some more. Do you know who I am? And I gotta admit, the first thing that came to mind was, I don't know, Mo Green? But I decided not to crack a Godfather joke at this particular time. Since, at this point now I was feeling a little scared. Then I just solemnly said to myself, just thinking out loud mostly at whatever point he stopped yelling, I said, Bob is never going to believe this. Meaning Bob was my friend who got me in the game, but had already left. Then the game runner says, oh, you're Bob's friend? And I didn't put two and two together that Bob was really nice to me after that. He cashed me out, he was polite, he was just trying to settle me down. And all because it turns out that Bob was this guy's lawyer. And now he just threatened to throw his lawyer's friend out of the building to his death. And when he threatened me, all I could picture was myself being held over some balcony like some degenerate chump who couldn't pay his losses and is just now being shaken down by some thugs. So he wasn't the gangster he was trying to act like. He just wanted to put some fear into me for breaking his game since I wouldn't know any better. Then one of the players also said, after things were calming down, he said, I didn't have a problem with anything you said or did all night until that last thing you said to him about not being worth it. Yeah. So, all right, so I leave the building at my own accord. No one threw me out of it. And you'd think I would just go back to my hotel and smoke, but nope. The night wasn't over yet. I went back to Commerce and got into a 10-20 game, and that's where Bob was too. And he told me, Danny, when you walked in, I knew something crazy happened because you looked white as a ghost. Yeah. I mean, I was a little paranoid after this happened. I didn't want to run into Zeus somewhere. I wanted to square this with him if I ever got the chance, and then I started running into him a lot. Later that year, months later, I was in LA again, and I saw him at the bicycle. It wasn't in my game, so nothing happened, but then I saw him a few times around Vegas, and then we started playing together again. But I was never sitting next to him, so I didn't get a chance to talk to him, and I didn't want to do anything across the table. But the first time I ever saw him in Vegas, we were both playing 10-20 at the Bellagio, and he was on the table next to me, and I saw through my peripheral vision that he was, staring at me. I mean, he was, looking right at me. Hard. He comes over to my table and he's talking to somebody else, but he was standing right behind my chair. And I was leaning forward a bit into the table before he even came over, But then he wraps his arms around my chair completely. It was like really weird. I couldn't understand what he was doing. All I knew was I was like, what? I mean, no, it wasn't comfortable, but I'm thinking like, what the fuck is he doing? I asked a friend and she told me, he's letting you know he's got you. I said, he's got me? What do you mean? She said, he's letting you know he can slice your throat anytime he wants. Oh, okay, that should go over really well with the Bellagio. See, this is why I wasn't like that concerned about what was happening. I mean, I knew he was fucking with me somehow, but what the fuck was he going to do? But I did eventually get to play with him where he was sitting next to me. And when I got my chance, I waited a little bit and then I just quietly said to him, I was like, sorry about that little incident we had last year. He said, we had an incident? I said, yeah, it was about a year and a half ago. He's like, I don't remember. And I just said, yeah, we had a few words. And that was it. And he was like, oh. It's like, yeah, it was a year and a half ago. Probably not the first person he got into that kind of a thing with at the table, but either way, yeah, I just don't know if he was playing dumb and shocked that I was saying all this to him, or if he genuinely forgot. I mean, I could see that one going either way, but only he knows. Still, though, I mean, I felt like such a fucking asshole for getting myself so close to that much trouble with a guy I didn't know and someone who looked like he's probably not afraid to do something crazy. Especially after Bob tells me later, after everything was done, he tells me that he was packing that night anyway. When all that shit pops off and people get shot, I mean, not that I've ever been part of a gunfight, but it doesn't seem like there's much buildup. It seems to all happen very suddenly all at once. One guy pulls out, and next thing you know, everybody's shooting. Crazy. I heard also that the security guard that night was like some former hitman in and out of prison. I mean, God knows who I was in that fucking room with. It ain't a casino when you're in a home game, so yeah. Just make sure you really know a lot about the game you're going to when you go to a home game. You don't want to go to just some game that somebody heard about, You need a lot of information. So there was no one to blame for this except myself, since I was the one being a smartass, but even if you do behave yourself, you still have no idea who you're sitting with or what kind of person they might be or what kind of crazy shit they might be willing to do for any old reason. So, to repeat, my advice is, unless you know everything and anything there is to know about a home game's safety and integrity, just stay the fuck away. People are venomous snakes looking to leech on anyone they can get their hands on, and more so than ever before. So, fuck them. They're going to have to go hunt somebody else. We'll see you next time.